There are 5 regrets I see come up again and again in ambitious men. And the thing that makes them most damaging is by the time men realise it's already too late to change anything. I've been in rooms with men who've built companies worth hundreds of millions. Some of them look 20 years older than they actually were. Some of them were checking their phones at dinner when their kids were right there. And most of them, when you actually got them talking honestly, said some version of the same thing. I wish I'd done some of this differently. These aren't failures, these are guys who won by every external measure. And they got to a certain point and realised they've been paying a price that they actually hadn't agreed to. I don't want that for me, and I don't want it for you. So I'm going to rank them from least to most regretful, starting with the ones you can still recover from. Building all the way to number 1, the one that costs you the most. And I'll be honest with you, by the time I get there, I think most men watching this right now will realise they're already in the middle of it. The 5th biggest regret, and the one I see holding men back almost more than anything else, is staying in the wrong rooms for too long. And I believe one of the phrases for this is like crab in the bucket theory, where all the crabs don't want to see any of the other crabs get set free. So if anyone actually gets taken out of the bucket, they come and grab it. And what these people do, maybe they're not exactly crabs, but the human version of this is where they're going to project their own ceilings, their own limits onto you. Because if they realize by someone in the same environment as them goes on and does something or achieves something in their life, that exposes them and exposes the potential that they could have done the same thing. So the only mechanism and tool that they have is to keep you in the same place and constantly project their ceiling onto you and try and convince you that it's your ceiling as well. And also, when you're in the wrong room and you share this opportunity with someone or you share the idea with someone, most of the time they're going to crush it or squish it before it's even started. For me, at the start of my personal development or self-exploration journey, not even business, I share a lot of ideas, thoughts and concepts with people who had no experience, expansion or any skin in the game. So they actually had no idea, but I had nowhere else to share it. I really wanted to share, but I didn't have the right environment to share it with the right people who would help me expand. The regret in older men is not the bad advice they took, it's the years they spent in environments that capped them before they even realized it was happening. And we live in a society where it's like, oh, if someone's older than me, then they must have something figured out. They must have the right answers to the things I'm going through. And that's not necessarily the case. What I've learned over time is I respect the decisions people have made if they're in a more advantageous position than me and they have what I want. And that shows me, okay, this person's advice or experience is going to be very valuable to me. And the rooms I eventually got access to changed my reference point on what is possible forever. Once my environment changed and I got curious enough and tried to add value to other people's lives who are, in better positions than me, then I got access, I got invites to different places and spaces that before I didn't even know were possible. I think the hard way, and what most people do, is try and earn their way into the room. But a few work backwards from that room. That's how I prefer to play. So I like to try and get in a room before I'm big enough to actually be in there, so I can absorb all the information as possible and try and provide as much value as I can in that space and place. That's my 5th biggest regret, and honestly, it's the most fixable one on the list. You can change your environment starting today. But the next one, number 4, is where it starts to get harder to undo, because this one is physical, and the longer you leave it, the more it's going to cost you. The 4th biggest regret, and one that I'll honestly admit that I've fallen into this trap as well, is spending more time comparing and consuming instead of progressing and taking action. That's right, the old comparison game. We've all been guilty of it, some of us more than others, but we've all had it at some point. Scrolling through people's reality, thinking to yourself that they've got everything figured out, and they're posting the best bits of their lives, just the highlight reels, the 1%, usually none of the hardship and none of the reality. The algorithm is designed to keep you addicted and feeling unworthy, feeling like you're not enough. And guess what? It works. And because it works and it gets so much traction, that's the kind of content so many people are posting, trying to make others feel unworthy. And there's a whole other rabbit hole that I could go down here around the whole looks maxing world, the fakery in women that are posting on social media, literally getting work done on themselves, surely purely for social media. Don't talk about it, but by doing this, actually making people feel worse about themselves, thinking that the person they're seeing on social media is a real representation of them. And it's not. And I'm talking here from experience, because I spent 3 to 4 years working as a model, so I see what goes on behind the scenes and the fakery that was happening back then, like 7 to 10 years ago. So seeing what it's like now, it's shifted even more. So what I see is people comparing themselves to a fake version of everyone else's reality. The irony is I've been able to spend time with people who are influential online, and these people aren't happy. They're playing a competitive and comparison game with their peers online as well. And it's this never-ending cycle and trap. I'm 34 and I remember before social media, and I have still been guilty of falling into this comparison trap. So I know exactly how easy it is, and how easy it is for the younger generation that have no comparison of what it was like before growing up without social media. And the hardest truth is every minute spent comparing is a minute you're not building, and you can't get that time back. So something that can really help you shift this is auditing every account you follow. And you can ask yourself, does this make me feel inspired, or is this content helping me feel unworthy? And if it's the latter, it's gone. And some pages show you like this glory highlight reel because they're trying to sell you something, and they're trying to sell you a product or a service so you can one day get in that position yourself. And don't forget, everyone is just posting their 1% of their life. You can see someone posting about their avocado toast in the morning, someone else having an acai in a different country, someone else has just had some achievement, someone else is showing the perfect setup and they've moved their breakfast all around so it looks more aesthetically pleasing, right? So much of it is fake. And what you're doing when you're looking at all this stuff is subconsciously comparing your life to the lives of sometimes thousands of people that you consume online, and you can't live everyone's life. So you can never actually keep up with what you are seeing and what you are consuming online. You can't live up to the array of fake standards that you're watching on a day-to-day basis. And as you travel or as you live more life and more people want to connect, be careful where you connect with them. Because if you're just going to follow random people that you've had 1 or 2 interactions with in real life, and you may vibe or you may not, why do you want to consume their content for the next however long, for the rest of your life, right? Or feel bad that you unfollow someone. You should only be following people that add and benefit your life. And if they don't, why would you follow them? There's this like weird social thing that if you meet someone once, you have to follow them, get them on Instagram. Like, fuck that, who cares? If you've met someone in real life and you gel in real life and over time it's someone that you actually want to engage with online, amazing. But if not, why then through one interaction that you had with someone once, it's going to cost you hours of consuming stuff that they're posting about their life that you quite frankly might not give a fuck about. So why would you do that? So break these social norms. You don't have to do any of this stuff. And what's really helped me over the years is not checking my phone in the morning, having some kind of routine, keeping it off for at least half an hour, sometimes an hour or more every day, and have some me time. Stretch, meditate, do some yoga, go for a run, do some breath work, read, make myself some nice breakfast. Like whatever it may be, it changes over time. But in the morning, when you feel the urge to get that dopamine, to start comparing yourself to people, to seeing those notifications, breathe, put your phone away or keep it in another room, and you create this force field around yourself where you're bigging yourself up first. You're showing yourself that you acknowledge and you respect yourself by doing something for yourself first thing in the morning. Start the day off right, because otherwise the phone's not going to tell you to do that. All that wants to do is have you consume the content and not feel good. Now, I'm not saying all social media is bad, but what I am saying is if you don't control it, it will control you. So comparing and consuming instead of progressing and taking action, that's the trap. And most men are in it every single day. The third biggest regret, and the one I see playing out in slow motion for men in their 30s right now, is deferring the life you actually want. So I remember my graduation day, cap and gown, so fabricated. I felt it was so fake. I just got back from hitchhiking through Europe for a month, so I just experienced the real nature and the ups and downs of life and how amazing humanity could be and how challenging times can be as well. I was living in this altered state. I just got back 12 hours before my graduation day. And I remember putting on the cap and gown that you had to rent, you go and get it, and the graduation scroll isn't even a scroll. And we're all queuing up one by one to get our beautiful picture, not with our degree, but with a piece of plumber's pipe that we have to hold both ends of with a ribbon around it. And I feel somehow everyone knows this is kind of strange, kind of a joke. And I just felt strange because I was looking around at everyone celebrating, people are in tears, people are crying. And I felt completely disconnected. And I thought to myself, what are we actually celebrating here? And let's be real here. The way the world's going, even 10 years plus ago when I graduated, there was no real jobs available for the degrees most people are getting. It's so normalized for young kids to take out student debt. For some reason, they're able to get this loan, to go and defer making big life decisions for 3 years because it's a good thing to do, go and get a degree. Yes, maybe, many decades ago. So it's 3 years of deferring life decisions before you have to start. Then you hope to get a job, you hope to get a mortgage, and the golden handcuffs are well and truly on. And men are constantly telling themselves that life starts after this next milestone, after I get my degree, after I get my mortgage, after I get my car, after I get married. It's always the after pattern. Real life will start after the next milestone, after the promotion, after the exit, when the kids grow up. And some of them actually get there and realize the version of life they deferred will never come back around. It's too late now. And I remember when I was 18, before taking the corporate path that I got offered, I decided to become a trainee outdoor instructor, which would mean me getting paid 7 times less than I would starting on the corporate ladder. So I took the job as a trainee instructor and took the 7 times pay cut. But that choice paid me more dividends than any corporate ladder ever could, because it taught me character over comfort. And because of the environment I was in, I got to learn how to balance having fun in life with also progressing, and not just chasing the comfort and that little bit of money. And this is not anti-ambition. It's about building the life you want alongside the work, not instead of it. So that's the third biggest regret. And if you're in your 20s or 30s watching this right now, you still have time to course correct. But regret number 2 is where it gets serious, because this one doesn't just cost you. It costs the people around you who had nothing to do with the choices you made. The second biggest regret, the one I've watched quietly destroy some of the most driven men I've ever met, is neglecting the people who are actually there. I've seen guys in their 30s, 40s and 50s who look way older than they should. Look like they're getting their life force drained out of them, with no balance or no presence outside of the workplace. And they've always told themselves at some point everything's going to be okay. But at that point, oftentimes things are already burned. Relationships gone, kids growing up without them, and friendships dropped. Some are paying huge prices financially and emotionally, and at some point realizing this, trying to rebuild something they've neglected for years. And here's what I've noticed underneath the workaholicism. Most of the time it isn't because they're so driven. It was avoidance. They weren't building, they were using building as a method to hide. And oftentimes if you're not building something in alignment to what you should be building, the more and more you work, yes, you can see progress and resistance along the way. And I believe that's why a lot of people don't look good that are building something that's out of alignment to them. They're just building to avoid something and creating this resistance inside. Because I also know guys who are way into their 50s, 60s and even 70s who are working all the time, but they're working in an aligned and balanced way. They're working on businesses and projects that they're actually fully aligned to, and it's their mission to do so. So they're energized for this. And oftentimes these are guys who have also done the internal work and aren't hiding. They've had to confront something along the way. So the work the workaholics are often doing is to escape the thing they don't want to face. And the sad thing is this workaholicism comes at the cost of relationships. The relationship with the people that want to be opened up to, that are actually there to care and support you. And then the very people that get pushed away in the process or end up not being able to be there for them. So you can change your environment. You can stop comparing. You can redesign your entire life, but you cannot get that time back with the people who needed you to be present and would have actually been there for you. So neglecting the people who are actually there is the second biggest regret. But the single biggest regret, and I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, is coming up next. And stay with me for this one, because I believe that most men watching this right now are in the middle of actually creating this regret without even knowing. The one I believe is the most invisible yet most destructive is mistaking output for identity. These men didn't just work hard, but they made their work their entire identity. When the business slowed down or they sold it, they didn't actually know who they were. And I've been in private members clubs, dinners and events. I've been able to talk to guys who've sold companies, acquired companies, retired. They've had their exits, they've got their net worth, they've got the numbers. And they were energetically depleted, speaking negatively, and oftentimes drinking too much. And I believe it's because they had everything, but felt nothing. Contrast that with the wealthiest man in the room, who was the most alive, the most fun, the most joyous, having a laugh, and he was the most energized. And what I realized was he had built around who he was outside of work, and his identity wasn't just what he could produce. You see, the regret is never I worked too hard. It's I never actually asked what I was working so hard for. And underneath that is a deeper question that ambitious men don't stop long enough to really think about. If everything I'm building stopped tomorrow, who am I outside of that? None of these are absolutely inevitable. That's the whole point. The men who avoided these regrets weren't luckier or more talented. They made specific decisions earlier. Most of them just had someone in their lives who named these things before they became irreversible. That's what this channel is. Not advice from someone who's figured everything out. Just a guy who's paid attention, made mistakes, and been in enough rooms to know what the patterns are, and decided to stop keeping it to himself. If this hits something for you, subscribe. I'm putting out content that I believe most creators in the place won't actually say out loud, so you don't want to miss it.